Do they think critically? Are kids endangered right now? Are their minds in jeopardy? Good morning. I'm Ann Devlin. That's what Pittsburgh's talking about right here on WTAE-TV. It seems like excellent timing, doesn't it? We're in the start of the school year, and what we're talking about this morning is what's happening with children's minds. For those of you who read study after study that indicate we have something to be alarmed about in this country because children don't seem to be getting it. A lot of children seem to have problems paying attention to what they're learning, have problems following orders. I want to open this up to the audience right away, right from the top here, to get them involved in this discussion. And we have a broad mix of educators, students, parents. So let's get going. Who thinks that kids are prepared for entering the workplace these days? Who thinks that schools are doing their jobs, are not doing their jobs? Who wants to start us off? Right here.
I just think the teachers need to try a little bit harder. I'm not blaming them, and I'm not blaming the students either. But if there was more working between the two, I think that there would be a better education.
All right, give me a for instance. Why do you accuse teachers of not doing their job?
Oh, in high school I had a bad science teacher, and it seemed that I had this man 3 years in a row, and he kept failing me every year. And I was like, the more I tried, the more harder he expected, you know. And I'm like, I tried my hardest, and he just like didn't want to give me a chance.
Didn't want to give you a chance. What do you think they're interested in? Do you think they're interested in helping kids succeed?
Going home.
You think they're interested in what?
Going home.
Going home, right here.
Some teachers are interested in helping children, but others aren't. They just want to get the day through and go home and collect their paycheck at the end of the day.
Now, are you out of high school?
Yes.
And so you look back, or do you think you were ready to, have you gone on to further education?
Yes. I had some classes that helped me to prepare myself for my school that I'm in now, but other classes, they didn't help me at all. So, like some classes, the teachers just didn't care. I've had teachers tell me that I don't care, just do what you want to do, then go on about your own business, and go ask teachers for help, and they wouldn't help you.
Now, in high school, did you think, whoa, not bad, get to have some free time here?
Right, and then, I mean, when I started my further education, I was scared because I didn't know what to expect.
All of a sudden, it caught up with you. Is that what you're saying? Agree, disagree? Let's go out here. Who else wants to get involved in this discussion this morning? Yes, go ahead.
I can't really speak for I have a son that's 21 years old and is currently a student at Penn State. I never encountered teachers, I'm a teacher myself, but I never encountered any teacher turning him off for any reason in his years of schooling. And that goes from, first grade on up. Okay, so I mean, I don't think you can dump it on any one particular group.
All right, you're a teacher.
Yes.
Let's take a look at parents. Do you think parents are living up to their responsibilities?
Some parents are definitely.
And those who aren't?
Definitely. And those who aren't, you can definitely see that there's something missing there. I think it
All
takes...
right, tell me how you assess that, though. How do you look at a child and say, something is missing here? What are you seeing in the classroom?
Well, what I'm seeing is the child is not producing up to their level of productivity. They are not bringing in their homework. There's a lack of motivation there, things of that type.
All right. Let's move on. Who else wants to get involved in this discussion? Yes.
Yes, I think that a lot of students need the kind of support system both from the community organizations and from the school and the parents. And a lot of the students are not learning how to think, but they're learning how to mimic and get things done based upon, like you say, Nintendo, Sesame Street, things of that nature. But the critical thinking process is something where young people have to get involved in actually participating so that they have to be challenged to think. If you can go from school to home to hanging out in the street, you don't get to participate in a lot of activities. So I think the activity level for young people has to rise. You can't allow a group of young people just to sit around and do nothing and not be challenged. And most of the young people you see making A's are the students who are participating in a lot of activities. So if you start looking at the correlation between those activities and their schooling, a lot of the students are making it because they're actually allowed to practically apply the theory.
But I sense that you are worried about a lot of young people these days.
Definitely. It's a very serious problem out here with young people not being able to participate and then getting involved in drugs and all the other kind of activities. Because you hear a lot of young people ask you, well, what is there to do? Well, I mean, going to hang out in the mall is not really something to do. you have to really begin to do things. In other words, we need to create different kinds of programs and activities for young people to do as a part of their education. Don't make it just a thing where the students just get to go to a classroom and sit in that classroom for 40 minutes. They actually have to go do something with the knowledge they learned in that classroom.
Apply it. Let's open up this forum to those of you at home, too, who are joining us this morning. Charlene from Washington, Pennsylvania. Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to state that I don't think that it all can be put on the educational system. I think that parents now are requiring the educational system to take over more and more of what they had always done. We are now required not only to provide hot lunches, but in most schools, a hot breakfast. They expect the teachers to teach everything as opposed to where when we went to school, parents taught a lot of the things. I'm not saying that it's all their fault, but I think instead of 20 years ago when a teacher went and taught a particular subject and got through what they had to do, we require so much more of them now as far as taking over the social and emotional growth of our children that they can't handle it all.
So you're suggesting that families aren't supporting the children with the kind of structure they need to ready them for school.
Not all of them. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying that, and it's not their fault, our economic system makes it that so many parents have to work.
Right. Thank you for calling in. Let's move on. Marianne from Lincoln Place. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm just commenting that I pulled my children recently from a Catholic school and put them in a public school because I found that the teachers there broke the children's self-esteem. They were constantly putting them down, totally using negative reinforcement. And now that I pulled them and put them in, of all places, the Pittsburgh public school, I'm finding the complete opposite. All positive reinforcement. My son went to scholars programs. My daughter's learning more than she ever learned. So I'm feeling that some teachers put children down so much with their self-esteem that they don't think they have the ability to learn.
Do you think it could be a problem with one teacher versus indicting an entire school system?
Yes, sometimes, but also a comment was made to me that if the private schools are only paying, say, $12,000 and a public school's paying $36,000, where do you think the better teachers are going?
Oh, okay. Thanks for calling in. Go.
That's wonderful. I am a product of a public school education. I had an excellent education. When it came to time to educate my own children, I looked into both the public school where we live, which is in a borough, and the parochial school. And I honestly was skeptical because I had not attended a parochial school. Without question, I think that the caller has addressed some very common misconceptions about Catholic schools. As we've talked about, which environment do children learn best, in what kind of environment, I think you look to success. Catholic schools have a dropout rate of less than 1% on the high school level. Their standardized testing scores exceed all national averages. The verbal and reading scores are outstanding. It's situational. We have found that the Catholic school within which our children are learning, we can't beat it. It's outstanding, and I think a lot of it has to do with the environment. There is a tacit agreement between parents, school, and children. You learn in a certain way. The teachers have a right to teach, the children have a right to learn. The environment is conducive to learning. It is calm, it is organized, there is respect for one another, and I think that's why the schools are so highly successful. I'm absolutely delighted. I think there are situations where you can say, oh, lousy teacher. As far as the teachers and the salaries, I don't think there's anything the parents would like more than to be able to compensate the teachers adequately. We don't compensate our teachers adequately. But many of our teachers, number one, our teachers have to be certified as any public school teacher does. Additionally, they must be certified by the diocese, so they have even higher standards to fulfill. Many of our teachers have taught in the public schools. They have left the public schools and returned to the Catholic schools because it's the environment within which they can productively teach.
Okay, let me go down here. Yes, go ahead.
Also, the Pittsburgh Catholic Diocese are all middle states accredited when we were the first diocese for every school in the nation to be accredited at the same time.
Are you a teacher?
Yes.
In the Catholic school?
Previously in the public schools, now in the Catholic schools.
Oh, so you're really steamed now, aren't you? Okay. Well, what would you like to say to this caller?
Well, I feel that you will find teachers that don't care and don't put the time in. I find that myself, as a parent with a child in the Catholic schools, that it's a two-way street. It has to be cooperative. That I don't.
You wish parents would. Do you find that there are instances though where you're thinking things aren't the way they used to be here? Things are different. Children are learning differently. Do you believe that?
Oh, absolutely. I've been teaching for 14 years, and I teach first grade. Things have changed.
Give me a for instance.
example, 14 years ago when I started, the first month of school was teach the letter A, teach the sound, teach the color. The next day you did letter B. Now they come in, they know their letters, they know. We're starting right into the reading series, which is a big difference. The child today comes in knowing a lot more than they did previously.
Do they think better than kids 14 years ago?
I think that they need to, it's a process. They need to learn how to use what they know. Application. Study skills are a big thing.
Are they not inclined to sit down and pick up a book?
We have silent reading and incorporated in our day, and we have booked programs and that. And yes, they do sit down and read. Maybe not as much as other children, but I think that today, if it's encouraged within the school and the home.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we have some guests who join us this morning to give their views about what is right and what is wrong with the way we are educating children today. Some of these views are going to be incredibly controversial. Back in just a moment.
Pittsburgh's Talking is brought to you in part by rich, delicious, mountain-grown Folgers crystals.
Dear Folgers, I tried the Folgers Switch at my daughter's wedding. To my surprise, we ran out of brewed coffee. Out of coffee? Luckily, my motorhome was parked nearby. I grabbed the jar of Folgers crystals and secretly made the switch. Well, it smelled and tasted so good, no one suspected a thing.
People who thought they were drinking fresh brewed coffee were secretly switched to Folgers crystals.
Thanks. Your Folgers crystals saved a special day. Betty Stauffenbiel.
Under Pennsylvania's new auto insurance law, you may be confused about what benefits you are now entitled to if you're injured in an auto accident. It's crucial to know that no matter what insurance coverage you select, you may still be able to collect money for medical bills, lost wages, and for your pain and suffering. I'm attorney Edgar Snyder. Call my law firm for a free consultation about your rights under the new law. And remember, there's no fee unless we get money for you.
Call attorney Edgar Snyder, 391-2101, 391-2101.
When it comes to buying a color TV, many people think state-of-the-art begins overseas, when the truth is, state-of-the-art starts here. You just have to know what to ask for. Ask for the only TVs with 4 ways to enjoy stereo sound, like Bose and Dolby Surround. Ask to see a Zenith. For true innovation in television, quality never looked more like a Zenith.
Step up to quality with a Zenith 27-inch or larger color TV with no money down and no payments till January.
Word on the street is now Mixed Jams.
That's right. Now there's a station in Pittsburgh that jams. Mixed Jams 100.7. Mixed Jams 100.7 FM. Today's freshest new music. First, Mixed Jams 100.7. Back-to-back jams. 30 minutes non-stop every hour. Mixed Jams 100.7. The best variety of today's hottest music. Mixed Jams 100.7. Turn it on.
All right. Let me introduce 2 of our guests who join us this morning. Doris Brevard. She is the principal of Robert L. Vann Elementary School in Pittsburgh, and she is distinguished in this sense. She is the highest achieving elementary school in the Pittsburgh public school system. First off, let's give her a round of applause for that. Are kids, in your view, thinking differently than they did, say, 15 years ago? Are they approaching education differently?
Definitely.
In what sense?
Education isn't as important to them today as it was 20 years ago.
You mean they don't value it as much?
No, they don't.
No kidding.
I don't.
Give me the evidence of that.
They don't realize that what they're learning today is really going to help them in the future. They are just more or less living for today.
Wow. So who do you point the finger at?
Society in general.
What's going on? Do you think it's a problem?
Education no longer holds the position that it once held. At one time, the educator was at the top of the social ladder. But now we no longer hold that position. And I think that's one of the problems when we compare our schools with the schools in Europe and Asia. In Europe and Asia, the educator is the most important person in the society, whereas here we are not. And that has affected the schools and has affected the attitude that the children have when they come to school.
So when they walk in the door, you can't assume that they're walking in the door with an automatic respect for what you are, what you do, and what you're going to teach them.
No, that is our responsibility to build that respect.
And you say that we should stop blaming parents when we look at the problems with children learning and start looking at the systems in which they are learning.
Definitely.
Well, talk about that. Are we laying too much blame on parents?
Yes. The parents may not be doing their share. Their assistance would help us considerably if they were more supportive of the school system. But we can't lay all the blame on the parents.
Well, what's gone wrong with the system?
The system in general, I think, has more or less accepted everything that, well, we'll just take it for granted that, well, this is what we're going to do. This is, I'm going to be successful in the future, but no one knows what I have to do in order to obtain that success.
Let me introduce the woman sitting next to you, Kathy McCormick, who is now a part-time fill-in teacher, right, a substitute teacher. And
one kid called me a fake teacher one day.
Ah, okay. God, I remember what they used to do to substitute teachers when sixth grade, they threw spitballs at her, threw big pens. Boy, did those kids get in trouble. I didn't do it. All right, so you've got a tough job from the get-go, walking in as a substitute teacher. You have also been a full-time teacher, but you contend that in your training to be a teacher, you weren't even prepared well enough to enter the classroom and confront these kids.
I don't believe so, and I appreciate the student's comment earlier as far as a criticism for teachers. And I feel there are two factors that really have to do with it. First of all, why is someone becoming a teacher? And I personally would like to have known that much earlier in my career. I didn't realize until I went to student teach that I really didn't know if I liked teaching, but at that point it was too late. So,
well, why did you become a teacher?
I liked French. I liked the language, and what do you do with it? You either become an interpreter or a teacher. So everybody says, well, you go get your teaching degree because it's very secure. You know, as a woman, if your husband dies early or your kids go back, you know, you have a career. And so I had always had the dream of maybe becoming some interpreter or something glamorous, but then you get married and have children, and teaching was the only thing that I could do with what I liked.
So did you approach teaching with enthusiasm?
I must say I probably didn't have a very good attitude to begin with because I don't think it was really something that I wanted to do. But my 3 years of teaching were very frustrated because I don't feel that I was equipped. I feel that if I was equipped and if I was prepared, teaching might have been more of a joy for me.
From the get-go, you suggest then that people who were teaching you to be a teacher should have spotted that you weren't with the program.
Well, either there should be some early screening. There's certainly testing now that you can do to find people's strengths and weaknesses, and somebody maybe could have guided me if that was not my area of expertise that I should be in.
But somebody should have caught that, you're saying. Did you go to school in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
At a state college?
Yeah, teacher's college.
Oh, a teacher's college.
Yes.
So you're thinking they should be with the program, right?
This is one of their majors, you know. And the other area that I feel as far as the equipping the teacher is the screening as far as, first of all, is being able to determine whether you really should be there. Many people have a natural gift and a love for kids. They really do. You can tell them, your kids have had them, they love it, and they want to be there. But if we only had those people, we probably wouldn't have enough teachers.
So give us the inside look. Every kid always wonders what goes on in the faculty dining room, right? Or in the teacher's lounge. So take us inside the teacher's lounge, and let's shut the door. And what did you hear?
Right, and it's, you know, you can't get Johnny to stay in their seat. You know, all the problems that you aren't equipped for. You're equipped to deal with your subject matter. You're educated in your subject, whether it's French, history, science, but you're not taught how to teach that, how to help that child that has a learning problem. You have 25 children who have different personalities, different abilities, different speeds at which they're going to learn, and you're not equipped to handle that at all. And so you come into the faculty room and it's, what do I do with this kid? How do I, it may a lot of complaining and a lot of frustration because you think the kids are going to be anxious to hear what you have to say, and they're not. And you're not prepared to deal with that.
You have difficulty keeping a kid's attention in a classroom?
Yes.
Across the board, is that a common problem?
I feel.
How about following instructions? Do they follow instructions well?
I don't think so, because even as a substitute, I will go in and I will, give certain directions, and it never fails. You have to go over it 10 or 15 times, or you always have to go around to the other child and help them individually because they didn't hear or understand what you said.
Are you worried about children today?
I really am, frankly, yes.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to meet a woman whose controversial new book is called Endangered Minds: Why Our Children Don't Think. Her name is Jane Healy. We'll be back in a moment.
Talk is my favorite four-letter word, T-A-L-K, talk. The greatest thing about WTAE radio is it's like...
Keep smoking crack, and eventually you'll be left with nothing.
The hardest part of getting help for a dependency problem is the first step you face alone.
Greenbrier Treatment Center, how may we help you?
The rest we face together.
My wife's drinking is tearing our family apart.
Call Greenbrier Treatment Center Straight Line for immediate assistance.
Can you help us?
1-800-637-4673.
WTAE-TV and Greenbrier Treatment Center, partners for a drug-free Pittsburgh.
Support UNCF, because a mind is a terrible thing to win.
Okay, let us welcome our final guest this morning. She is the author of this book, and boy, is this going to make some shockwaves. Endangered Minds: Why Our Children Don't Think. Please welcome Dr. Jane Healy to Pittsburgh's Talking. You hold your doctorate in educational psychology, more than 30 years experience as an educator, a scholar, and a mother of 3 sons. So let's talk about what you think is wrong. Why are children's minds endangered?
I think their brains are being changed by our culture, and I think that's why it's making it harder for you to teach them. Growing brains are very plastic. They can literally be influenced by the kinds of things that come into them. If your children are watching a lot of TV, playing a lot of Nintendo, they're forging different kinds of connections in those brains than if they're reading, talking, playing games. And we're getting a generation in school, I think you're seeing them, of different brains. They are smart, they can be educated, we can do it, but if we go about it the wrong way, we're really turning them off.
You're talking about they're smart in the sense you speak of in your book, of having a broad base of general information, and they can play Nintendo, and they can work with computers if you introduce them to a computer.
And their potential is terrific, but they're having trouble, and I know this is what you've been saying, paying attention in class, staying on task, solving problems, understanding what they read, and getting thoughts into words, writing, oral expression. We have over 15,000 kids a week in this country being referred for learning disabilities testing. And this has a lot to do with the fact that there's a misfit between the school and the child that's coming in right now that is causing us a national crisis. We are in serious trouble because the schools are not changing to accommodate the new brains that are coming in. And although there are many techniques that we are using that work, not all schools have found out about those yet.
You're saying also that kids don't even have adequate social skills in a number of instances, and you say that this is a problem that crosses economic boundaries.
Absolutely.
This is not a poor kid's problem.
Absolutely not. I'm hearing reports from teachers, and I did interview teachers all over the country, And these are from schools in every walk of life. They're all saying exactly the same thing.
Give us the for instances. What are they saying?
The for instances are that they can't pay attention, that they can't sit still, that they can't follow directions, that they can't focus on problems, that they've got basically 2-minute minds, if you want to think of it that way.
2-minute minds. Agree, disagree? What do you think about that?
I see heads nodding all over.
Oh, you're applauding.
We must have some teachers in this audience. I see heads going up and down like crazy.
Because they can't sit still and they can't comprehend. They really should go back to basics, like the reading, writing, and arithmetic first before they start going into Nintendo and those kind of things. And the child doesn't know how to read and doesn't know how to write and can't comprehend what it is doing.
May I suggest that the reason they're not reading, writing, and reasoning is that they haven't got language. And that has a lot to do with our fast-paced culture. How many of us have time to sit and talk with our children and have those long conversations to build those language skills? If you try to put reading on top of a brain that has not mastered listening to language, understanding, putting your ideas into words, basically you're going to get kids who do just what our children do. They sound out the words, but they hate to read, they don't understand what they read, and they're not tuning into the author's message any more than they're tuning into what you're saying when you give them instructions or tell them something in class.
Right over here. Come on out here into the sunlight. Yes.
Hi.
I have a 4-year-old cousin that at the age of 2, she knew how to read, write, and now, even now, she comes up and she would talk to me as if she was the age I am. And I think that if your parents and everybody gets involved with what your kids are doing, they're going to learn more, because I sat down with my cousin and my sister. My 13-year-old sister's helping with me in my shorthand in college, and she can comprehend everything that I say, and she sits there and she says, well, Sissy, this is wrong, Sissy, this is right. And my 4-year-old cousin does the same thing. She would sit down and read a book with me.
And understand it.
And understand
Isn't
everything.
that marvelous? That shows that there's nothing wrong with their brains. They can be stimulated. It's the environment that they're in.
And part of what you posit as the environment is when there are two parents who are working during the day, children are sometimes put in daycare where they're not stimulated adequately, where people aren't talking to them. You talk about in one of your chapters, you have a daycare center where the people didn't even speak English, and they're taking care of these infants.
The kids are sitting in front of television sets in many care centers. Now, I've been a working mom forever, and, you know, we all have enough of the maternal hormone. You know what that is? Guilt. And I don't mean to lay a guilt trip on moms or dads who are working. But the society has got to figure out some ways to give us some adequate backup systems to bring these children into language attention so that they're going to be able to achieve in school.
You say that parents don't even sit down enough with their children and go through a task, and that a 3-year-old is just told to go take a bath.
Well, there's one family that, in fact, was referred to a neuropsychologist. They thought the child had an attention deficit disorder, and the neuropsychologist tested the child, found nothing the matter, but discovered that these parents, both of whom were lawyers, were living in a $300,000 house. But dinner was never put out on the table. It was always just food was on the counters. And in the morning, the child was expected to get himself dressed for school, 3 years old, and organized. And they wondered, you know, the kid has an attention problem. Well, it's no big surprise. So, you know, you're right. This is no respecter of class. It has a lot to do with, I think, what the parents are feeling is important. And these parents felt that education, that intelligence was this child had lessons, he had all the advantages, but he didn't have anybody to sit down and show him how to learn, show him how to think, show him how to reason through problems.
This leads us very nicely to what may be one of your most controversial assertions in this book. And you suggest...
Oh, I know what's coming.
And parents at home are going to be just gasping. You suggest there is something wrong with Sesame Street.
Oh, yes. And I thought I'd be hung in the public square. My chapter is called Sesame Street and the Death of Reading. Can you believe that? But basically, teachers from all over the country have called me and told me it's time somebody said this. Let me explain a little bit. I think Sesame Street's a great program in many respects. Their intentions are good. It's cute. It's funny. It's lovable. And they've done a lot of wonderful things with some concepts and with some moral issues. But in terms of learning, in terms of education, it moves too fast. It manipulates children's attention with fast-paced visual and auditory effects. just artificially manipulates the brain.
And that makes it difficult for the teacher standing up in the classroom trying to do something maybe that you're not dressed up in a costume. You feel like you have to go out there and have some gimmick in order to keep the kids' attention.
I mean, so does it seem when they're accustomed to this, like 20-second, minute-long bursts of, first we're in Australia, then we're going to the bean canning factory, then we're looking at the color red, and then we're changing to the alphabet.
And the music in the background.
That the teacher must seem like they're talking like this to a student who then gets to first grade and says, could this be a drag? Is that what's happening in your school?
Yes, they become very bored with the lesson because the teacher isn't moving as rapidly as the Sesame Street program. And as a result, they'll turn the situation off completely.
So what do you think of Sesame Street?
For the very young and once in a while viewing, but I really don't appreciate sitting a child in front of a television and say, all right, this is Sesame Street. I think if you're there to explain the program to the child, work through the program with the child, that makes a difference.
But the point that you make in your book, Jane, is that most parents plunk the kid in front of the TV set. They're proud of what the child is able to recite from having watched it. You say there's a problem with that reciting, and you also suggest that even if a parent wanted to explain what goes on in Sesame Street, it's moving so fast. As a parent, you wouldn't be able to slow things down.
You can't slow it down. You can't. The children don't really understand what they see on Sesame Street because it moves so fast. Plus, they teach reading the wrong way. Alphabets are not the way to assume that children are going to learn to read. They've got to have that language base. They've got to have the base of thinking, of understanding how the world fits together. You get that from playing with empty boxes and measuring sand and water, not from sitting having your brain manipulated by a television set. Sesame Street is a much better program, I might add, than most other children's programs. But if we don't call it education, I have no problem with it. But if we're going to say that that is our best effort to educate young children, I'm going to say we're in trouble as a society. We've got puppets as teachers.
Wow. Taking a break. Coming right back.
If you're one of the millions of fans who'd like a chance to hang out backstage with the new kids on the block.
This is Donnie Wahlberg live for Entertainment Tonight.
Entertainment Tonight's got your exclusive pass to be a special part of their world tour. You'll join them in Santiago, Chile, where they share the stage with more superstars in Amnesty International's incredible all-star concert. Go on the road with the new kids. Exclusively on Entertainment Tonight.
Tonight at 7:30 on WTAE TV.
1 out of 4 auto accident injuries.
Hello.
Mrs. Lawrence Caldwell?
Yes.
This is Sergeant Lechner with the State Patrol. Your husband has been in an accident and is on his way.
He's going to be all right, but he is going to be off his feet for quite a while.
I know, but you still have bills to pay. I really think you need to call a lawyer.
Call DeMay and Donnelly at 833-2900. Home or hospital visits available.
Hey, you made it.
How you doing, man?
All right.
Mom and Dad asleep?
Yeah, we weren't expecting you until noon.
Let's let them sleep for once. When did you learn to make coffee?
You have been gone for a while.
Nothing brightens your morning like mountain-grown Folgers. Mountain-grown coffee has more enticing aroma and richer flavor than any other kind.
You got a little thick around the neck, man.
You old man.
Yeah, but you got guys don't change. You never did let us sleep.
We have 5 copies of Dr. Jane Healy's book, Endangered Minds, to give away. We'll give them to callers 6 through 10 this morning. 412, if you're outside the city, 333-9999 is the number to call. Let's go right over here. You wanted to say?
I just wanted to say that...
you wanted to laugh first. Yeah, so you're really laughing.
Children have short attention spans, and you can't sit them, you know, in front of a television to watch something long because they get bored.
You're defending Sesame Street.
Yes. I think Sesame Street is a good show for children because it teaches them things. It might be short, but it picks up their attention faster, and they'll sit there and they'll watch it if something's constantly changing. If it's long and drawn out, they're going to get bored.
Boring is what you're saying, right?
All right.
If we do have the short attention span, maybe teachers need to adapt teaching methods. Now, if you teach me a concept and then sit me down in front of a book and give me 100 problems to do, I won't do them. Because if I understand the concept, I don't want to write and write and write. If you have a classroom discussion, now I'll be interested in that and I'll participate in that. But I won't do rote memorization because I think that's silly.
I agree with you, and that's
So-
my point in saying I feel teachers need to be prepared. First of all, because of these changes, they need to be equipped on how to stimulate, how to motivate the kids to learn, how to reach them, and how to make it creative and interesting. We're not taught that,
I
and
know.
it doesn't come
I'm
naturally.
not blaming teachers. I mean, everybody's looking for a scapegoat because the teachers, they only notice the bad students sometimes. The students only notice the bad teachers. The teachers only notice the bad parents. But so you can't really blame anyone.
Well, no, but I agree with you.
Right. Okay.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm only...
Keep going.
Another situation, and that is that there is such a thing as learning styles. A lot of people don't understand what learning styles are. There are different learning styles, and everybody has, how you say, a higher level of a certain type of learning style. And I think teachers ought to find out what those are. Students ought to find out what their learning styles are, and then they can all kind of match that up and be able to learn better.
Yeah, but does that work? I mean, you got a classroom of like 28 kids.
The man
what are
is
you going
right.
to do? Individual learning styles for 28 kids?
No, because there are only 4 basic learning styles. And so you can almost group them into those 4 styles, and they can learn better that way. And if you approach the teaching understanding that you're teaching the 4 different learning styles, then you can encompass everybody when you go in the process of teaching.
Agree, disagree?
Agree.
And a parent learns that when you have children. You learn that each child is different, you discipline children differently, you motivate them differently, and there aren't that many variables, but
right here.
It's true.
Okay, I agree with everything that's being said up here, but my only point is there's only one person I can blame for anything I haven't learned, and that's myself. Because my parents have always sat down and talked with me. They've always helped me out. My teachers have always been there for me. If I didn't want to learn something, like he said, I wouldn't sit down and do the homework. That's my fault. You know?
Did you not get turned on by things and decide not to do the homework?
I feel that, okay, sometimes the assignments, there's too much because you think you're giving them the assignment for one class and you're not thinking about the assignment from another class. There's a lot of work there. And a lot of times the classes, I think, are just too long. Because I think if they were shorter, you'd be able to keep the attention. Because the first part of the class, I'm always interested. But towards the end, you start to fall asleep. You get tired. You're bored. You hear the same thing. And you know,
what we're hearing about are schools that are falling into the model that we've had too much of, which is about 90% of what you're hearing is teacher talk. And this isn't working with today's children. That really shouldn't work with anybody. The man is discussing learning styles. We need to present things visually. We need to get the kids up out of their chairs in a controlled way and involved. I'm sure in your good classes in your school, that's what's happening. The kids are actively going after information. They're not just sitting there having something pounded into them. You know, the Ramrod School of Education, boom, boom, boom. Let's push it in faster and farther and sooner.
Sean from Pittsburgh, good morning to you.
Hi.
Hello,
I
go
went
ahead.
through the school system from 1st grade all the way through 12th grade, the public school system. And my question to you is, what I want to know is how come students go through this system and once they graduate, they still don't know how to read or write?
Was that your case?
I know, not my case. I know a few students who I graduated with who can't even get a job now because they don't know how to read and write. What is going on is what I want to know.
Thanks,
And why
Sean,
are
for
these
your
students-
question. Who wants to take that?
The young lady in the audience answered that. The education was presented, but if you're not interested or if you don't want to learn,
there's only so much that can be done.
Doris, let me ask you, how does the kid make it through school and graduate and be illiterate?
it's very easy. If they are really concerned about education. If they're not going to learn anything.
But I mean, along the way, why aren't the red flags going up and saying, this kid is in danger?
The red flags are going up, but oftentimes it's almost impossible to convince a parent that the child has a problem.
But then how does the kid get out of school? I guess that's what people want to know. How does the kid physically get a diploma?
How can somebody graduate, take tests, and not learn to read or write? How can teachers not see this? I mean, somebody's going through there, they're just going right along, and they graduate.
Do you know somebody had that happen?
I don't understand how they can make it through.
You do know somebody who had that happen?
Well, I think the only way they get through is if in some cases, good sportsmen, good ball players, very good ball players, and then others just have people cheat off of them. They cheat. They favorites towards teachers favorites, and just basically good ball players is what it is.
Wow. All right, let's take a break. We're coming right back in just a moment. Is there someone that you're envious of? Maybe it's their looks, their family life, their career. The green-eyed monster has hit us all, and we want to hear about it in your case. If you want to talk about being envious, call 244-4447. That's 244-4447 if you've ever been envious.
Dave Thomas, founder of Wendy's, never knows when inspiration is going to strike. Introducing Wendy's new grilled chicken filet. A whole breast of chicken with lettuce and tomato topped with honey mustard on a toasted bun. This could be Dave's best-tasting chicken sandwich ever.
This could be my best-tasting chicken sandwich ever.
Wendy's new grilled chicken filet is grilled to be great.
The stress headache. Relentless. Tightening. Stretching. When the pain has you at the limit. Take Anacin. Anacin. Or aspirin-free Anacin 3. Strong pain relief for today's stress headache.
Well, did the doctor say you'd need surgery?
No, he said my hemorrhoids aren't that serious. And to use Preparation H.
You can often relieve pain and itch for hours and help shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues with Preparation H in ointment and suppositories.
Drunk driving is against the law, but that doesn't stop drunks from driving. If you're the innocent injured victim of a drunk driver, under Pennsylvania's new auto insurance law, you have the right to collect money for your injuries no matter what insurance coverage you select. I'm attorney Edgar Snyder. If you've been hurt by a drunk driver, call my law firm for a free evaluation of your case and use our 24 years of experience to get the money you deserve.
Call attorney Edgar Snyder, 391-2101, 391-2101.
Our studio audience, well, it's real easy. All you have to do is give us a call, 244-4447, to reserve your free tickets. That's 244-4447. If you'd like to join us here at Pittsburgh's Talking, call now. All right, let me just share a couple of things with you. These are just from clippings that we've been gathering up in preparation for this show. This is the Wall Street Journal on parental involvement, a nationwide federal survey of 24,600 eighth graders in 1,000 public and private schools shows that the message of parental involvement is not getting through. Nearly half the students said they rarely discuss school with their parents. A survey of the eighth graders' parents reveal that only half of them have any contact with their children's schools. Parental involvement, how important is it, and what do parents need to know right now?
Key, critical. Talk to your child, do activities with your child, even if it's only cooking. Get rid of the microwave mentality, sit down and do a project that takes a little while. Talk through it, help them understand what it feels like to solve a problem. Care about school, care about reading.
Ask them. Don't wait for them to sit down and give you a daily report.
Listen. Then when they listen to them, they can't express themselves. No one ever listens to them. We don't listen in school and we don't listen at home. How should we be surprised they can't read or write or reason verbally?
This is interesting. Here, this one is from the Wall Street Journal. Children are more likely to want to read if their parents read out loud to them as toddlers, but many parents acknowledge that they don't do that consistently, either because they're beat at the end of the working day or can't wean their children away from television or other activities.
We own the house. I mean, at least we tell them we do.
But there are parent meetings, there are parent
Turn off, hold on one second, turn off the TV set.
Turn it off. Plan together for its use. Use it intelligently.
I don't think we should spend as much energy concentrating on who is at fault. I think we should spend more of our time and energy
concentrating on what will solve the problems that exist.
Here, here.
You know, place of blame is going to solve anything.
And for the evidence of where this all ends up, this is from USA Today, a survey of student performance, National Assessment of Educational Progress. Few students use their minds well. They grasp facts, but they miss key concepts. In history, for example, 84% of 8th graders knew how Abraham Lincoln died. Only 25% knew his goal in the Civil War was to preserve the Union.
Oh, well, we're teaching, that's the Sesame Street bit, and we were talking at the break about competency testing, where we try to force all these little facts into children, often too soon, I might add, without showing them the connections, and I know you have some comments to make about that.
And we're putting too much emphasis on testing. The society now is putting so much emphasis on the test that the schools are really teaching for the test. We're not teaching the curriculum.
Are you
and the
serious?
children are losing
What,
out.
the teachers know what's going to be on the test, and so they direct the curriculum in that direction because they know these kids don't perform well. Somebody's going to be coming back to me and saying, Mrs. Smith, why are your second graders not doing well on that test?
Yes, the teachers more or less are held responsible. They're accountable for the success of their children as a result of the test scores. So naturally, their aim is to see that the children do well on the test.
Teach for the tests.
Well, this is all part of that dumbing down of tests that I described in the first chapter. We looked at tests from 64, 74, and the 80s. You would not believe what has happened to the reading tests. Things that 4th graders could read in 1964, 9th graders couldn't possibly read today. The 9th grade item that I show in the book is a pizza menu that they have to read and answer questions about which item has spinach in it. It is unbelievable. And these are the tests that they're not doing well
So what's
on.
happening? The administrators and the educators are watering down the test so that kids look better on them?
You got it.
So is that part of the explanation for why we are graduating more students who are fundamentally illiterate?
Well, if there's a critical mass of students who can't master the curriculum that we're presenting, eventually the teachers get worn down to the point where they water it down.
So, but I mean, what's left is the reality that we would be graduating kids who just aren't going to know as much as they did, as graduates did 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. But we can change this. I think the young man who said, let's not blame, let's start thinking, what can we do? We can start these children when they're 3 and 4 years old with language. We can teach them the basis of language and attention and using words to think.
Now, I know how some yuppie mothers are. Let's qualify. What do you mean by language? You're not talking French, Spanish,
no,
a second
absolutely
language.
not.
You're
I'm talking about learning to express themselves well in the grammar of one language that will help them to think about thoughts and ideas in that language and help them to organize their minds, their lives, and their thinking.
Okay, Jane from South Hills, good morning to you.
Yes, hi. I am concerned about tenure. I feel that tenure is a problem in the educational system. Teaching is the only profession where someone is guaranteed a job for life, even if they're not doing a good job.
Would you want competency tests in the state of Pennsylvania for teachers?
What I would like is the law to be changed. As far as I found out, Pennsylvania state law is guarantees the teacher this tenure, and I feel that in itself is producing some teachers and keeping some teachers in jobs who should not be there.
Thanks for calling in.
Well, we're very fortunate in the city of Pittsburgh. A teacher who is not performing satisfactorily, within 2 years, receiving an unsatisfactory rating will be fired. So we are weeding out our poor teachers.
And they were there to be weeded out.
Yes. Even though they had tenure through this method of observation and rating, we have now been able to remove many of the teachers that were unsatisfactory.
All right, so how do you assign responsibility here? What needs to change?
I think the attitude towards school needs to change.
Teachers need to be valued.
Yes, definitely.
Parents need to make a big deal out of school. I can remember when I was a little kid, school was a big deal. You got dressed up for it. You treated it with respect. Your homework was a big deal.
But parents don't go to the meetings. I went to a school meeting the other night. Our school has 600 students in a middle school, and there were probably 30 parents there. the percentage I couldn't believe that people were not interested, and they were talking about reading and writing across the curriculum, which is something that is new and I think we need to do.
So parents shouldn't assume, and you're speaking as a teacher, parents shouldn't be assuming that the teachers know it all and they know best, so I don't have to go to the meetings because it'll be okay and they'll take care of the situation.
Right.
Well, we have a new program now. We're trying to educate the parents.
In addition to the students.
In addition to the students as to their responsibility to the school.
I hear a lot of schools saying that all over the country.
And is that, do you think, the key to success?
Yes, I think it's one of the keys.
All right, we're going to take a break and come back to wrap things up in just a moment. Join us tomorrow on Pittsburgh's Talking when soap expert Gary Warner gives the scoop on all your favorite soaps. And you might be the winner of a one-year subscription to a daytime TV magazine. And we're going to play Stump Gary. That's tomorrow at 10.
More and more people who have prescription plan coverage are taking their prescriptions to their Legend Pharmacy. Why? Because it costs no more and they get very special care. Who wouldn't like their prescription filled in less than 10 minutes? It does make a difference when the pharmacist also owns the store. He cares.
Visit one of 30 convenient Legend pharmacies in western Pennsylvania, including Livingston Pharmacy, Clareton, Lemmert's Pharmacy, Johnstown, and Bill's Pharmacy, Plumboro, Penn Hills.
You're up.
I'm sleeping.
You were walking.
I was walking in my sleep.
Have your coffee.
Hey, yours is darker than mine.
Mine's decaffeinated Folgers crystals. Yours is the decaffeinated you always drink.
Did you use the same amount?
Yeah, watch. Mine's mountain grown Folgers.
Nice aroma.
A sip?
Yeah. I thought I was the reason you're always so bright-eyed in the morning.
Oh, you are.
Decaffeinated Folgers crystals. So dark and rich, shouldn't you switch?
A tropical vacation.
Rose, we're going to an island in the Caribbean. Our biggest worry is getting strap marked.
On the next Golden Girls, tonight at 11:30.
If you're not recycling, you're throwing it all away.
All right, let's come back to the final question here, and that is, I have for you, how do you educate parents? You say you're having courses now to help parents be, what, better parents?
Yes, and helping them in relating to their children. Every Monday in the month of October, we're having workshops for parents.
And you teach them
how they should respond to the children, how they should respond to school personnel, the importance of a good community, their relationship within the community. All that is part of parenting.
All right, I guess the message out of this is everyone needs to take more responsibility, right? Thanks so much for joining.
Guests on Pittsburgh's Talking stay at the beautiful newly renovated Hyatt Pittsburgh. Transportation provided by Elegant Limousines of Pittsburgh. And Devlin's Wardrobe courtesy of Kaufman's through the personal shopping service. Hair care by Griff's Hair Salon in Shadyside.